Connecting via private endpoint provides a secure and reliable way to access resources and services within a network. This comprehensive guide will walk you through the process step by step. First, understand what a private endpoint is. A private endpoint is a network interface that connects a virtual network to a service, allowing you to access the service privately. This is particularly useful for services that require a high level of security, such as databases or storage accounts. To connect via private endpoint, start by creating a virtual network. This will serve as the foundation for your private connection. Next, create a subnet within the virtual network, which will be used to isolate the private endpoint. Now, register the service provider for the service you want to access. This will allow you to create a private endpoint for that service. Then, create the private endpoint, specifying the virtual network and subnet you created earlier. Once the private endpoint is created, configure the DNS settings to point to the private endpoint. This will allow you to access the service using a private IP address. It is essential to ensure that the DNS settings are configured correctly to avoid any connection issues. To test the connection, try accessing the service using the private endpoint. You can do this by using the private IP address or the DNS name associated with the private endpoint. If the connection is successful, you should be able to access the service securely and reliably. Best practices for connecting via private endpoint include using a secure connection protocol, such as HTTPS, and configuring access controls to restrict access to the private endpoint. It is also essential to monitor the connection regularly to ensure that it remains secure and reliable. In summary, connecting via private endpoint involves creating a virtual network and subnet, registering the service provider, creating the private endpoint, configuring DNS settings, and testing the connection. By following these steps and best practices, you can establish a secure and reliable connection to services within your network.